went to the post office, and that's where I get my mail from. This beautiful book was in there. It was all, of course it was wrapped up. I didn't know. I knew that it was a book. I just didn't realize what was inside the package. It's called Vintage Pies, the Classic American Pies for Today's Home Baker by Anne Haney Collins. And I have to tell you, this is a beautiful book, cookbook. I've not really had the time to just sit down and just read all the stories in here. It's got some really, not only recipes, but beautiful pictures and stories to go along with it. I think, of course, I love to cook, and I love any kind of dessert. But my favorite are pies, cobblers. Of course, I love to eat them because they taste good. But the process of making a pie, to me, is, and I know this sounds funny, but it's almost like creating a piece of artwork sometimes. I mean, it's just a skill that anybody can do. You just have to practice and do it. I've been making pies for years, and my family before me. I mean, it was just a part of how I grew up. I think a lot of the pie making is because you're working with your hands. You're creating a crust, the filling that goes inside, whatever kind of pie it is, whether if it's a double crust or if it's you've got a lattice top on it, or it's a meringue topping, it doesn't matter. That pie comes out of that oven. It's the best smell, and to me it's just beautiful. So, yes, Miss Lori is crazy about pies and making pies. But I can't tell you how excited I am about this book. Now, I have a lot of cookbooks that have pie recipes in them, and I have, just in my own memory, make pie after pie after pie, because I've done it for so many years. But this book right here is special to me. For one thing, because a special person sent it to me that I'm going to get to personally meet, because she is coming to my homestead in a few months, and it almost makes me cry just talking about it. But we become friends because I started watching her YouTube channel, and we just clicked. We have a lot in common, and I love her. But she knows me well enough to know that I love pies. And she went on a vacation, and she got this book for herself. And when I seen it, I thought, what a beautiful book. And I told her that it was. And so she's got one just like it. But I tell you, I'd rather have this book right here than any diamond ring. That's how much I just enjoy stuff like this. But anyways, let's open it up. It's Vintage Pies by Anne Haney Collins, and it has really pretty pictures in it. I mean, it's just, this is the table of contents, and it tells you all the different pies. I'm not going to go over that, but I just wanted to show you all the beautiful pictures in here. Now, this is the introduction. I want you to look at this pie. It's so pretty. And it says, and this is from the New York Times, 1902. It says, no pie-eating people can be permanently vanquished. Well, thank goodness, because I'm a pie eater. I'm a pie-eating people. And I love this old pie that are old. Y'all see those too. I wish I had time, and maybe I will sometime, give a story to you. But I just wanted to look at this. Isn't that pretty? You know, I made a cherry cobbler and made a video of it, and that was the best cobbler, I'm telling you. But I just love cherries, and those look beautiful. And of course, she has the introduction to her pie crust. And it says, this recipe for pie crust has been in my family since 1860. It's a basic, easy to work with, and very forgiving, and produces a light, flaky crust. Now, when I turn this page, and I seen her recipe, that's the same recipe I use. And it is. It's tried and it's true. A cup of all-purpose flour, a half a teaspoon of salt, 7 tablespoons of lard or vegetable shortening, and a fourth a cup of cold water. And it does. It comes out flaky. Now, the only way you can mess a pie crust up, and the only way that you can really mess one up is if you overwork it. Just like if you were making biscuits. If you overwork that dough, you're going to have a tough pie crust. And then she just goes through here, making her pie crust. Like I said, I just love the pictures. And this is a double pie crust, lattice work. Isn't that pretty? I get so excited. It's a beautiful pie. And we'll be making some of these pies as we go. Now this is chapter 2. Chapter 2 is talking about what they used to call transparent pies. And it says transparent pies made their appearance in American cooking as early as the 18th century, and probably had their origin in the traditional English Banbury or chest or tarts. The basic filling was sugar, eggs, and butter. The addition of a small amount of flour or cornmeal created our American chest pie. Embellishments would include fruits, nut meats, spices, and occasionally milk or cream. So this is what I'm going to start with today. It says this old recipe, which dates from the 1700s, makes the simplest of the transparent pies. This is the first recipe, so this is the first pie I'm going to make. It's going to be an easy one, and I bet it's going to be delicious. So there's no reason you couldn't run in there and make a pie, because it only calls for 3 eggs, 1 1/8 cup of granulated sugar, and a 1/3 cup of butter. And of course, your pie crust. So this is going to be my first pie out of the book, and it's going to be an easy one, but I'm going to go from pie to pie till I get them all made. And I told Miss Vicki, who bought me this book from Vicky's Country Home, that that's what I was going to do, that I was going to make 1 or 2 of these pies a month until I got them all made. So let's get started. I'm excited. Let's get started with our pie crust. Now I've got a cup of all-purpose flour in here, and I'm going to get half a teaspoon of salt, and I'm just going to mix that up. Nothing complicated. Just mix that up real good. And right here I've got 7 tablespoons of shortening, or you can use lard. Sometimes if I've got good lard, I'll use lard. But I've got Crisco right here. And sometimes I'll use butter-flavored Crisco too. So I'm going to put 7 tablespoons of shortening in here. And I'm just going to take my fork, nothing fancy, and I'm just going to work that shortening into that flour. Now this is out of my cookbook. This is Ann's recipe, and it's pretty much my recipe. It's the same recipe. But you just work the Crisco in that, and you just want to work it in there, or the shortening. You just want to work it in there till you get like pea-sized pieces. You don't want it to be smooth, but you don't want big old hunks of shortening left over either. Just kind of work it in with your fork. Just like that. And you can pretty much tell when you've got that shortening worked into that flour pretty good. You don't want to overwork it. Now when I make an all butter crust, I'll let, you know, pretty good sized pieces of butter, you know, just kind of stay in there in the flour, because it makes that pie crust real buttery if you don't just try to work it all the way into the flour. But anyways, so I've got, I don't think I'll see that very good because it's light, but I've got it worked in here pretty good. So I'm going to make me a well, and I've got 1/4 cup of cold water. Now what I do is I measure in my 1/4 cup of water, and I always put like a little ice cube in it because it needs to be really cold. But I don't pour the whole amount of water in there right off the bat. I'm just going to pour about half of it. And then I'm going to just start working that in to my flour. Because any given day, you know, even though the recipe calls for 1/4 cup, you may not need all that water. It just depends. Okay, I'm going to pour just a little bit more. And I'm going to start working this together with my hands. And when I can feel that, see how it's coming together. It's just all gathering up, and it's coming together. And I didn't use all that water. But you never know. Whoops, you never know if you'll use all of it or not. So I'm just going to gather that up. Not overwork it. And I've got my tea towel here that I do my pie crust and biscuits on, and I floured it a little bit with a little bit of flour, and I'm just going to work my dough like this. Maybe dust it just a little bit. Turn it over. I got my trusty rolling pin here. Nothing fancy. In fact, I like these better than I do the kind with the handles on them. I just have more control over my rolling with something like this. Now I rolled that out, and I'm going to turn it. I'm going to roll outwards this way and put just a little bit more flour on there. I rolled that way, and I'm going to roll this way. And I'm going to turn my crust. And I'm going to push out this way. I'm going to push it out this way. And I'm going to turn my crust. You don't want to roll it back and forth. I'm not getting enough flour on my rolling pin for some reason. You don't want too much flour because it's not good for your crust. And I'm going to roll it back this way, like that. I'm just going to keep rolling. Well, actually, I'm not rolling. I roll out on one side, then I roll out the other. And this dough is really giving me fits, but it'll still work out. Get it rolled out to the size what you know your pie pan is. And I'm pretty sure that, yeah, it's going to fit just like that. going to take my dough and I'm just going to kind of lay it over the pie pan. I'm going to take it and turn it over. Now if it breaks or cracks a little bit, don't worry about it. You can go back and work with it. So I'm going to preheat my oven, get it preheated. I'm going to trim this pie crust. And then we're going to make the filling. So we'll be back and get this all filled up, and we'll make us a pie. Now our filling is pretty simple. The transparent pie just calls for 3 ingredients, and that's 3 eggs, a 1/3 cup of butter, and 1 1/8 cup of granulated sugar, and that's all it is. So let's get started on the filling. And I've got 3 fresh eggs in this bowl, and I'm just going to start whisking. And I'm going to whisk until this gets a lighter yellow color. Instead of it being real orangey yellow, I want it to be a light yellow, like a pale yellow. And when it gets to that point and just a little bit frothy, you'll know that it's mixed up enough. And you know, if you're like me and you have a lot of chicken eggs on your hand, this is another this is another good pie you could whip up. Wouldn't take you no time. And I've got my unbaked pie shell here beside me, and also I've got my little convection oven. I've got it preheating to 350. So I think I've got that mixed up pretty good. Now I've got a 1 1/8 of sugar I'm going to pour in here. I'm just going to stir as I pour. I know that seems, it does seem like a lot of sugar. It's pretty much what it is, a sugar packet. Okay, I've got a 1/3 cup of butter, real butter, and I'm just going to start pouring it in there. And I'm going to stir as I'm pouring. And that's all there is to that. Easy peasy. Like I said, I've got my pie crust here. I've got a little hole right there. So I'm just going to pour my filling in my pie crust. It's unbaked. And I'm going to put this in my oven. And the recipe says for about 30-35 minutes, so I'll just keep an eye on it and see when it gets done. And that's as easy as this pie was. Nothing to it. It's going to be really good. So let me get it in the oven, and when it's done, I'll let it cool off just a little bit, and we'll come back and just see how good it really is. Okay, here it is, guys. Transparent pie. Sugar pie. And my crust is so flaky that it just kind of fell apart, but I taste it. I'm telling you, that crust is so good. So, let's take a bite. That's really good. If y'all remember the old-fashioned custard pies that your great-grandma would make, that's what that tastes like. And Mr. Brown's going to love it because he loves homemade custard. And you see how brown that got on top? And it's kind of crunchy on top, but the middle is like a custard. Well, that's what it is. And it's not too sweet. It is really good. And look at this crust. So flaky and tender. So, that's a keeper. So this pie, what they call transparent pie, it dates back to the 1700s. And I can tell you, I can't quit eating it. It's good. So the next pie, the second pie in the book, is sugar pie. Now what's the difference, you say? The sugar pie, it was developed using cane syrup. So you still have sugar in it, but it's going to have cane syrup in it. So once they establish this pie, the sugar pie, is when the next step become pecan pie, because they added nuts to it. So our next pie we're going to make, which is the second pie, will be a sugar pie. And we'll see how that turns out. And we'll just keep going from there. And it looks like it just keeps getting better too. So guys, I hope y'all enjoyed this video and enjoyed this recipe. And if you did, give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe please, because it helps me a lot. And share it. You know, we should always, all of us, help each other, love each other, support each other. Especially as women, we should always encourage each other and not tear each other down. So let's just remember that we just need to help each other. So with that being said, I hope everybody has a safe and great weekend. So God bless everybody, and eat more pie. Bye-bye. I wonder if Miss Vicky's baking a pie. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I bet she is.